She didn't enjoy the thought of seeing all the dead bodies in the cities and towns, let alone the stench of the bodies decomposing. Moving through the field, April tried to stick to pleasant thoughts about the future. April didn't know what the future was going to be like, but the thing that she enjoyed was the idea that was just going to be herself among the trees and plants of nature. While deep in thought, there was a rustling sound that made her stop in her tracks. What is that? April felt a sense of dread and energy, making her feel like her body was telling her to flee from where she was. But what confused her was how the movement didn't sound like a large animal. There was a sound of sniffling and soft crying. That sounds like a person. April's eyes widened in surprise. She didn't expect the person to even show up, considering the lack of any signs. But what was odd was the fact that the sounds she heard didn't appear to originate from an adult. This was the reason why April didn't flee in the opposite direction. Curious about the person, April approached the soft sobbing sounds. She made sure to be quiet as she neared the person, not wishing to alarm them. Though I'm surprised that I found someone, I imagine it would be frightful to see someone else at this moment, April thought to herself. The fact that they were far away from any signs of people or civilization, it was likely that they were barely hanging on, based on what she'd seen of people and their ability to survive in the wild. Getting close, the sounds of sniffling grew louder. Moving aside some of the tall wild grass, April couldn't help but gasp upon laying her eyes on the little girl. Hearing the grass move, the girl looked up, her face covered by the blonde hair covered in dirt. Only one of her blue eyes could be seen peeking between her medium hair. Once the girl realized there was another person, her body tensed up and her eyes quivered with fear. Seeing how terrified the girl was, April raised her hands. It's okay. I'm not here to harm you. The girl's cheeks were gone, clearly showing how she was barely holding on out in the wilderness. It was clear that she wanted to run away, but was too weak to move. A quiet whimper could be heard from the girl. Though April wasn't fond of people and tried to stay away from them, the look of fear and helplessness brought a tear to her eyes. She could feel her chest begin to tighten. It's okay. April tried to keep her voice steady, which was difficult at the moment due to the emotions building up inside of her. Tears began to trail down the girl's face, leaving behind streaks since her face was practically covered in dirt. Slowly moving closer, April tried to think happy thoughts in order to give off an air of friendliness. Animals in the wild could sense the intentions of other creatures, which April had learned a long time ago. Even if she didn't try to avoid any animals, they tended to not see her as a threat and left her alone. But with humans, it was a little different. This led to the little girl continuing to whimper in fear from what likely she perceived to be a threat. April tried to judge how old the girl was and determined that she likely wouldn't have been old enough to learn complex social skills, which people developed after being exposed to institutions like schools or close-knit communities. It was likely why the girl hadn't even said anything, probably not even knowing how to speak. April imagined that the girl didn't even understand what she said, only knowing that April was a stranger. Offering an open hand slowly towards the girl, April tried to not take any actions that could be interpreted as scary. The girl looked at April's hand, not looking sure about what was happening. A few moments passed as she tried to understand what April was doing. Cautiously, the girl reached out with one hand and took April's hand.